On this episode of Art Loft, we take you to the Fountainhead Residency, an artist space that breaks down the walls of the traditional gallery.
We head to the Lower Keys and visit a sculptor whose work is in public spaces across the United States.
Plus, art is in motion in Boynton Beach at the International Kinetic exhibit.
And in Isla Mirada, an artist couple is making frames from lobster traps fished right in their backyard. It's all ahead on Art Loft.
Art Loft is brought to you by
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
the Miami-Dade County Tourist Development Council, the Miami-Dade County Department of Cultural Affairs, and the Cultural Affairs Council, the Miami-Dade County Mayor, and the Board of County Commissioners, and by the Friends of South Florida PBS.
Hi, I'm Jumani Anamdi.
And I'm Lola Reskin, and from Miami Beach,
This right here, this is Art Loft. A local Miami couple is giving artists a unique space to both live and work. It's called Fountainhead Residency, which allows them to showcase their pieces to the public in an intimate gallery kind of setting, really eliminating the formal barriers museums sometimes have. I take you on a tour to check it all out. We're here with the founders of the Fountainhead Residency, Catherine and Dan Mikesell, and I really want to introduce our viewers to what you guys have going on here.
We started the Fountainhead Residency over a decade ago, which I still can't believe that we're on our 11th year, but we started it in 2008. And we really started it because when we started collecting, we quickly realized that we were so much more drawn to a work of art once we had the opportunity to get to know the artists. We've been collecting since 1998. We wanted to do more to give back to artists, and at the same time, we wanted to do more to give back to Miami. The city was exploding in the arts, but at the same time, it was still in its infancy and still needed to be nurtured. So in starting the residency, it enabled us to do both things.
Fountainhead has 3 artists that are flown in from all over the world, and they spend between 1 and 2 months here. So they live there, they work there, and we connect them to people in the Miami art world.
Now, and you have a big event here, so every time you bring a group of artists, you bring all your friends, collectors that come here. For some of them, it's their first really experience with a lot of people being able to see their work, right?
A lot of why we do that is because not everybody's comfortable going into galleries and going into museums, and kind of another part of what we're trying to do is bring more people into the art world in a way that is non-intimidating.
Right.
So when you come to a house to see an artist's work, you automatically feel comfortable. You know, everybody, you think of a home, you think of family, you think of, you know, being open, you think of conversation.
We like to give the artists more information than they had when they came about the business of art. So allowing collectors and museum people to come in and talk to them without that filtration of a gallery puts them on the spot a little bit. And so they have to explain their work, defend their work, and potentially sell their work.
So what's the future? What do you see as the future of Fountainhead?
Well, we made a big step, a big change recently. We decided to turn it into a nonprofit, so now we are fundraising and receiving grants and building our donor base.
And one of the things we're doing now, which is really interesting, is going after artists in non-art hub markets outside of New York, LA, Detroit. Tremendous artists out there don't get the attention they deserve, so we're bringing them in here.
You know, when we look at artists, we're looking for artists that are at an inflection point, right, where a residency like ours can really have an impact, a long-term impact on them. Come back for the open house.
Yes, we're going to come back for the open house.
Wow.
And I want to see that, and I want our viewers to get a chance to see the party. I had the pleasure of talking to Dan and Catherine about Fountainhead Residency, and I said I have to meet the 3 artists who are here for this session. Renluca.
Yes.
Pleasure meeting you.
Same here.
All right, so where are you from?
Originally, I was born in the West Indies in Trinidad, and now I live in Boulder, Colorado.
Being in Miami, has that changed the way you made your work?
Oh my God, I love Miami. Miami for me is magical right now. I wish I could stay longer because it really fed the work. The story I'm trying to tell through my work, you know, involving my grandparents coming over from India to harvest cane. They worked the cane fields in the early 1900s when the British started bringing over all the Indians. So even though I know that sugar has a colonial history, it has a violent history, for me, that smell was home. Right now in Trinidad, there's no sugar. There's nothing left. So when I came to Miami, I'm thinking, you know, wow, this would be great. I love it. It's very tropical. And then I find out that there are sugar fields here. There are cane fields. And so I took it upon myself to go there and work the field. You know, I wanted to have at least a small feeling of what it would be like. So for me, it's a very personal, very close kind of portrait and video that I'm doing right now. I feel really close to it.
Was this something you expected to do?
No, absolutely not.
So, Helena, pleasure meeting you. So you're here for Fountainhead Residency.
I deal with a lot of archives and research-based practice. So with this particular show, I'm dealing with the archives of quote-unquote radicalism, whatever's considered radicalism.
So this piece here, is this one of the pieces where you got the kind of historical documentation?
I was really interested in the color and the vibrancy of the Black Panther newspapers. I was in love with how internationally focused it was at the time. I wanted to show that and to show maybe different perspectives, their attention and interest in women's issues as much as male issues or things beyond those binaries. So I wanted to put all that history as much as I could without being completely didactic. These are students of mine at Michigan State. So I wanted to think about a younger generation, the generations that are just coming up now, and how or if they've been influenced by social movements of the past.
So we're here with Alexandria. So what is your work about? Like, what do you, or is it about something, or just a feeling? Is it?
It's about a little bit of a feeling. I'm really exploring the psychological and emotional feelings associated with identity and developing a sense of self and coming to terms with who you are and figuring out your place in the world.
There's some duality going on.
A lot of duality going on. That's like that's the name of the series that I'm working on.
Oh, really?
The duality series. I'm in white spaces in grad school.
What were they getting straight into?
They were just obsessed with me and the my autobiography, and not the work. And I said, just because they're brown figures in the work doesn't negate the universality of the concepts I'm exploring, nor does it mean that it's about me.
Could this be the duality of things as well? Like
yes,
dealing with that issue and dealing with where you were coming from and how these different worlds connecting?
It is. It's both about conceptual duality and dualism and also a physical dualism. It's about masculinity, femininity, like we were talking briefly about before. Gender skewing and blurring those gender boundaries and boundaries around sexuality, but also looking at how the figures are in relation to one another, how they're interacting and engaging with each other, and also the spaces that they're inhabiting.
Artists from 42 different countries have brought their artistic flavor right here to Miami during their residency at Fountainhead. Find out more online at fountainheadresidency.com.
Picture this. Sculptor Craig Gray works outside in Stock Island in the Lower Keys with the breeze and the sunshine. Like his outdoor studio, the sculptures he creates are slices of Florida life, and they're located in public parks all around the U.S. When he sees pictures of people in the snow in front of his pieces, he hopes that they too are feeling the Florida sunshine, if only for a moment.
My name is Craig Gray, and I'm a sculptor here in Stock Island, Florida. For about 15 years, I carved gravestones, I did granite countertops, and then I also carved other artist sculptures. And so that's how I kind of backed into the arts. Then I got inspiration and I decided to pursue my own work. I had a residency at the Studios of Key West, a great organization, 6 years ago. And then 6 months later, my family and I moved to Florida. Up north, I was primarily a stone carver, and I did a little bit of metalwork. And then I came down here, and the only stone available was coral rock, which doesn't lend itself very well to carving. It's a very soft stone, not durable over the long term. So I started searching for another medium. And in South Florida, the exteriors of buildings are stucco. So this piece is a set of orange slices. I haven't finished painting the yellow yet, and usually I define it some. It's hollow. It's made of masonry backer board, metal lath, and stucco. And then I carve the stucco to give the slices definition. This is one of the pieces that's up in Jacksonville, Florida. The highway into creating public art, which I specifically moved to Florida, is there is close to 100 public art programs, all shapes and sizes, all different types of communities. And the great thing about Florida and a few other states is they lease art. This is a set of candy hearts. This one here I'm refurbing. It was out on display in Hyattsville, Maryland for about 2 years. Winter environment, and then when I brought it down here, brought it back home, I brought it back in December, and the frost heaves, which we don't have in Florida, beat it really bad. So I'm recovering it again with a second layer of metal lath, which you can see here, and then stucco. I've put large-scale pieces for anywhere from a year to 2 years in about 25 communities in the state of Florida alone. And that kind of started me on that path. And then you get the piece back. So then again, you can lease it out again. And from Florida, that kind of acted as a springboard. So then I went to Chicago, I went to Jackson, Wyoming, all these places. Right now I have 22 large-scale pieces of art around the United States. It's a great program where a lot of communities are a bit uncomfortable. You know, they want to feel out the waters, basically, and say, is this going to be something that people are going to like? And a lot of the public art calls that I do, they're looking for a temporary installation of sometimes a year to 2 years, and then I can come back and do touch-up work if somebody tagged it or something like that. A lot of cities are bringing in pieces. They'll display them for a limited amount of time. They may move them around within the city, and then they come off display. They're trying to keep it fresh. This one just came off display from Rosemary Beach out on the panhandle of Florida. It's kind of a fun piece because, you know, you can reach through it. A lot of this rebar, this steel, was salvaged off of Route 1. At the last installation, when I came and picked it up, there were probably a dozen locks on it. I'm only guessing that people had made some promises and decided instead of locking to a bridge, they locked to my sculpture, which was kind of fun, you know? And then I had it at another town, and it was in a kind of a green space. It turned into a giant chia pet. Vines had grown all through it. I'm always open to, you know, how the art evolves. The great advantage of working in South Florida here on Stock Island is the fact that I can work outside. The cement dries within a couple days. I could have never done this up if I was working up north. I mean, it would take a week and I'd have to have it inside a heated building. If you're driving by, which is the fun thing about this large-scale artwork, you'll notice immediately the shape and you'll be like, oh, I know what that is. But then as you come up closer, you'll see that there's still kind of a texture to it. It's a little bit on the abstract edge. I get selfies daily of somebody standing up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, shivering in the cold next to a set of popsicles. I mean, I had one outside Baltimore in Hyattsville, Maryland, a set of giant candy hearts. And I have tons of pictures of these kids hugging candy hearts. I mean, that's a little bit of a political piece. I made that after the election, and it says, I love you, embrace, but it's subtle. I usually don't do political pieces, I just do friendly art. You get a pretty decent group of tourists coming down here specifically for the arts. They're already interested in the arts, they're interested in culture, and they're open to that. It's cultural tourism, which is really nice. I have people just randomly stop by who see our little sign out beside the road. I love it.
Craig has been carving stone for over 25 years. To see more of his large-scale public artworks, visit crgray.com. Now, this public art piece behind me is called Miami Mountain. It's a permanent installation here in Collins Park, and just like Craig's sculptures, the piece has traveled across the country to make its permanent home here. The sculpture is 42 feet tall and made of 5 huge boulders.
In Boynton Beach, the International Kinetic Art exhibit pushes the traditional boundaries of static art. These pieces can be optical illusions or use mechanical movements. They are set in motion by elements like the sun, wind, and water, or can be set in motion by the viewer. Let's make some moves.
Well, kinetic is very much a very appealing type of art form because it's entertaining, it's very inspiring, and it's art that moves and art that moves you. So the viewer is engaged with it, they can interact with it one-on-one often. They can also learn how the art is made.
This is powder coated. Oh, it's not just painted. Right. And there's 5 layers. And the final layer is actually a UV layer where the metallic fleck is. If you mix the fleck in with the paint, it's not as good a quality. So it's made as big and as best as it possibly can.
Boynton Beach is a kinetic art city. We embraced kinetic back in 2009. This is our 4th biennial that we've created for the city. It attracts people all over the world. And then there's, kinetic art that you'll see that are mobiles, that are stables, wall, they're op art that when you move, you will see different things in it. And it will transform in front of your eyes.
Okay, we're going up to number 2, which is Jeffrey Lodenslager.
It's called the Hobbed Flower. The hob is the tool that created this. It's one of the tools, at least, that creates it.
I think just the way it blends in with the remaining landscape. It's absolutely gorgeous against the palm trees, the blue sky.
This is the only international kinetic art fair, and what we do through the Moving Toward Balance experience is give people their own opportunity to make kinetic art, to be part of the art. Throughout the 2-day festival, people can look at art and hear they're making art as well as looking at art. And so they get to understand the mechanics of it, the science of it. It's a lot of physics involved in kinetic art. And we're kind of taking the mystery out of it on a personal level and a personal scale.
I want to know how the water comes out of the bucket when he just sticks his hand in it.
So Doodally is a character that I created, and through him, through body language, basically, I want to express my views of society. So usually, there's a hint of humor, sarcasm sometimes, but it's always based on fun. I do have a remote control on the dock that you can step onto, and then it activates the system. So that's, the physical interaction. Now, the intellectual interaction with the sculpture is people associate themselves with Doodally. And that's really my goal. I want you to see yourselves into my work.
Probably the one that's taking direction from the guy that I'm with, saying, get that water out faster.
In a group, no matter what the size, it could be a couple, it could be a family, and then we go on to a community, a city, a nation, and the whole planet as a whole. You always have those that are totally oblivious to problems. Completely oblivious. They just live their lives. All they're concerned about is their own selves and their own well-being. And then aboard the same ship, you have the one that constantly worry about the slightest thing, or it could be important. But my final comment would be, in this instance, is the canoe taking in enough water that you should even worry about it? So that should tell you which one of those two I might be. the blue one, obviously.
Oh, I'm going to be the red guy.
Me too.
I'm going to be the guy panicking over the flooding canoe.
But to me, the colors are basically about, it's completely random. Sometimes I do pay attention to colors, but in this instance, not at all. It was completely, I always use bright colors because my work is always fun, always intent to distract, to bring a smile. And eventually I love, if you can associate with any one of those, you made my day. That's my reward.
That's interesting that you say that. I'd probably be the one that's bailing out.
And you would be fishing. Okay.
No, definitely not.
Look at how it's working.
Yeah, I know, and it's just the way that arm fits right into the bucket and empties out.
I like this guy fishing now.
Fantastic. I love that. People actually play with my work. They interact with it, and that is the best. That's the best.
The Kinetic exhibit is held biannually. You can always check out what Boynton Beach has to offer as part of their Art in Public Places project. They even hold tours, so check out the link below for a map of all the locations. And just like the viewer sometimes has to activate kinetic art pieces, this chess table by artist Jim Drain here in Collins Park at the Bass Museum is meant to be activated by the user. This piece explores geometric design using steel tubing and tiles. Checkmate.
Up next in today's episode, we're going to meet another dynamic duo. Since 2003, this couple has recycled over 10,000 lobster traps, turning them into handmade frames. Let's go down to Isla Morada in the Florida Keys and meet the creators of the Lobster Trap Art Gallery.
I'm Nadine Lochte. This is my husband, Glenn Lochte.
We're here at the Lobster Trap Art Gallery in Isla Morada. My wife and I retired back in 1996, I believe, and bought a home in the Keys. And we just didn't do much other than fish, snorkel, relax. And then one day I was walking and I picked up some lobster trap wood along the road. And I said, I'm gonna make some frames for our family. So we made them lobster trap frames. And they go, these are great. You could sell these. And I go, you think? And this is what happened. Every year, when they take all of the lobster traps out of the water, they repair them. And what we do is we collect about 100 truckloads of used traps that they can't repair. Some of it is very weathered, some of it has barnacles. We leave the staples on, nails, we leave the shells, everything, just like it was a working trap. And then we use the lobster trap rope to highlight the frame. The larger pieces, we put a lobster trap tag to give it authenticity. We always say we collaborate with nature. We have different mediums that we put in each frame. We started off painting, showed our work in art shows, Robbie's, where they feed the tarpon, and we started to get very popular with people. My wife does mainly the animal paintings, turtles, manatees, birds, lobster, and I do the landscapes and seascapes. So anything with a palm tree, a beach scene, or a lighthouse is one of my paintings.
Well, I just love the animals, the sea creatures, the birds. I mean, they're just so beautiful down here, and people get a memory of the Keys.
And then we started doing underwater photography in depth about 3 years ago. And we've taken probably, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of pictures. Everything is shot in the Caribbean. Most of it here in the Keys. It's all Caribbean fish, Caribbean lobster, Caribbean octopus, vivid colors. We have a lot of turtles. And then unusual things like octopus. People are like, whoa, where did you get, you know, it's really unusual. So it would be...
Keysy?
We call it Keysy. I don't know if that's even a word. Keysy or Caribbean or tropical art. We just love what we do. We love enjoying it. We can't wait to get back on the water, take more pictures, and we love that people love it.
The couple ships their art all over the world. See their original creations at lobstertrapart.com or visit their gallery next time you're in the Florida Keys.
Well, thanks for joining us on Art Loft. So Lolo, that was an awesome show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so many people making these creative spaces that are not traditional, but very unique.
Yeah, and there's, you know, obviously so much art going on in studios, but also so much public art that people can enjoy when they're out and about all over South Florida.
There it is, all right.
Yeah. What's your favorite public piece of art? Connect with us anytime online at Art Loft SFL. For Art Loft, I'm Lolo Reskin.
And I'm Jamani Anamdi. Now remember, art imitates life, so do what? You hit 'em, Lolo.
Live a beautiful life.
Peace.
Art Loft is brought to you by
Where there is freedom, there is expression. The Florida Keys and Key West.
the Miami-Dade County Tourist Development Council, the Miami-Dade County Department of Cultural Affairs, and the Cultural Affairs Council, the Miami-Dade County Mayor, and the Board of County Commissioners, and by the Friends of South Florida PBS.